Okay, we are back. So that for me was an experiment in how quickly can you eat eggs? And the answer was not quickly enough. If you could see the side of my table, it's like, how quickly can you eat porridge before the first session? Not quickly enough. There's a half eaten bowl of porridge. Second one is, how quickly can you eat eggs? Not quickly enough. There's a half eaten plate of eggs. We'll see what happens next for lunchtime. By the end of the day, it'll just be like a buffet of food that I have ate. So we're on to round two. A couple little housekeeping things in the chat. If you're just joining us, we are using a workbook. Where is my workbook? We're using an interactive workbook through Canva, so I'm just going to drop the link in there. Use as a template. And then the other housekeeping things, one are today and tomorrow. I think we might be booked up for today, but myself and my team are doing these like 5 to 10 minute mini chats. These are about specifically hiring us for a new brand. Not really like pick your brain kind of thing, but I'm going to put the link for that in the chat. So if you want to schedule one, I think we might have a couple slots for this afternoon, and we definitely have one or two for tomorrow. So that's what we're doing. Let me actually do mini chat link. I don't like the way that looks here. That's better. Mini chat link. And then the other thing is a few people have already signed up for the VIP part for this workshop. Was a 90-minute one-on-one. So I know some people in here have already done the one-on-one too. I could see you, Stephanie. I could be like the second thing. And Stephanie and I just did a one-on-one last week. So we do 90-minute brand audits where we can go through an 12 to 18 month plan for your business. We can go through visual branding audit. So you basically have me for 90 minutes to just pick my brain. So I'm going to stick that in the link too, down in the chat. So if anybody wants to sign up for those. So let's see, VIP brand audit. That is a paid thing. So you got all the links. So we've got the Canva workshop. We got mini chats if you want to do one of those. That's specifically for hiring us. And then VIP brand audit. That's for 90 minutes of my time, your business, laser focused. Got that out of the way. Let me share my screen. In this session, we're talking about client avatar. Here we go, session 2. Am I recording? Yes. It's always the anxiety is, am I recording? Rapid fire. Where do I find clients? Uncovering your ideal client avatar. This is a term that kind of gets bandied around a lot, avatar. So we'll go into the definition of it, how to find avatars, and then our exercise for the day is going to be actually building a client avatar together and then sharing it. Start off this morning with some math. But I like this one though. I found this really helpful when I learned this myself to start making decisions. So if you guys have ever heard of Paretos, it's funny. I thought I knew how to say it until it came out of my mouth. Do you guys ever get that? You're like, I know a word. And then you just go to say it. And I'm like, maybe I don't know how to pronounce that. Pareto's principle is the 80-20 rule is probably the easiest way to say it, Nick. And this, it works for this as well. It works for sales. It works for time spent on anything. It's this concept that about roughly, these are not exact sciences or math. It's just kind of like a guideline to go by. Roughly 20% of your customers will make up around 80% of your sales. Why is that important? It's important because if 20% of your customers could potentially make up 80% of your sales, that inspires me, one, to really understand who, like, that 20% is your ideal client. That is the ideal client avatar. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to find out more about that person. But these numbers correlate. So 20% super fans, this 20% of your customers will make up 80% of your sales. And we've seen that here as well. And I've seen that actually in multiple industries that be true. You know, there are 20% of people who have followed my businesses, like, not even when it's been branding. Like, I've had some people that were yoga students of mine that were entrepreneurs that then took a program that I did that was like transformational astrology. Then they followed me into the business world and listened to the podcast. Then they hired me to build their website and build a brand, you know? So those are the people who are the super fans. They've followed my business. You know, some of them even got like one-on-one hormone assessments when I was doing that. They're the people who are just super fans for the business, but super fans, I guess, for myself or the brand persona too. So, and this is not unique to me. It's not that I have special powers or I'm super awesome. It's just a person who's aligned with myself, my vibe, the way that I share information, who's an ideal client for me, who's going to follow me along the journey. And now I have a unique story, so not everybody is pivoting as many times as I've had. And so it's kind of unique that some people have followed me along. But for your business, that 20% of the customers, what it makes me think is, one, I want to know those people really well. I want to know how to find them really well and communicate to them. And I want to obviously do a really good job. And that seems like it would go without saying, but I would tell you that, like, straight up, for many years of my business, I was not giving it my all. I was not making sure, and it's easy to cut corners, especially if you're a solopreneur and you are just overwhelmed, you know. It was really this year that I focused and promised myself to go through the process, hire the right people, you know, like start hiring professionals for everything that I was doing myself because I was always a DIY person. Start hiring professionals. That was one thing, investing. The other thing was investing in a team. So having the best people for the job to be able to make sure that when somebody hired us for a website or a brand, that it wouldn't be just me, that we would have really high standards. And so this works across all industries, making sure that your process and making sure that everything that you do for clients is rock solid and above and beyond. You know, like, what can you do that goes that little extra mile? Because what we want this 20% of customers for is repeat business. So if 20% of your super fans will make up 80% of your sales, that means there's a potential for them to buy multiple things for you. And you may have heard this before, but it's a lot cheaper and it's a lot easier to retain a client than it is to get a new client. And so I want to make sure that we really know those people, like, intimately, that we know a lot about them, about their psychology, and we know how to keep them coming back again. You know, how I think for me, that's a lot of that has to do with having a really good process and having really good customer service and really knowing those super fans, that kind of 20%, knowing them really well. So there's another, like, this little bit over here, 20%, and these are kind of connected, but you can think about them as like two different statements. Like, one is the 20%, 80%, but then how it usually breaks down. And I find this helpful in making decisions. 20% super fans. These are people that don't need a lot of convincing. These are the people that you do a sales call with, and they're like almost an immediate yes. They're just like, okay, where do I pay? Where do I sign up? They're the people that are really excited when you share a new offer. These are the type of people who could become eventually like brand ambassadors for you. You know, these are the people who are evangelists for your brand. They're out there. And this could be like, if you say you're a functional medicine, a practitioner, or a health coach or something like that. These are the people who have had a great transformation with you. and they go out into social media, and you don't, without any prompting, they're like sharing with their friends and saying like, I worked with Dr. So and so. I feel amazing. That was really worth my money. That was really worth my time investment. You should work with them. So these 20% of super fans, they need nurturing in terms of attention, like, and attention can just be as simple as like the people who buy repeatedly from you, or are really active on social media, just taking the time to make sure. I have a thing on my calendar on Fridays to go through, and the people who are like our current clients and the people who are like super fans actually go through on social media and check in with them. And that can be as simple as like liking a post, commenting on a status update, sending them a little message. It doesn't take a lot of time, but the super fans, your main thing right there is to make sure you do a really good job when you work with them, and to make sure that you are consistently, regularly. I always like an Asana task, some kind of to-do task regularly, or else I forget. Consistently going through and making sure that you are nurturing them, and that could be like sending out holiday cards, sending a little postcard in the mail. Like they can be high touch things as well. That doesn't have to be completely virtual. And that really depends on, I'd say, the price point. If you have clients who are spending in the multi thousands of dollars with you, it makes a lot of sense to take a little bit of time to actually like nurture those relationships a little more, because those super fans become a big referral source too. Some people have businesses that rely completely on referrals, and that's really down to the quality of the process that they have, and that 20% of super fans that work with them and are just really, really jazzed and really excited to share. Then the next section, we have 60%, roughly. These are all estimates, but it's really helpful, to just kind of have this framework. 60% of people need convincing. And this is where the bulk of your marketing efforts are going to go. These are the people who, they either need convincing in the beginning of the funnel. And when I say funnel, you can really just think about that as a customer journey. People get hung up on funnels, like, what does it mean? And does all this tech stuff? No, it's just a customer journey. So some people need convincing in the beginning. They need convincing why they should follow you on social media. They can need convincing why they should sign up for your email opt-in or your email list. They need convincing there. And then the whole purpose of that customer journey, the sales funnel or an opt-in funnel, is to continuously convince them in the least obvious way, right? In the least kind of salesy way. But part of that, like when you have that 60% going from just learning about you, just being brand new, all the way up to a booked client, somebody who's paid, turning them into a super fan, somebody who loves your services, had a really good result, had a really great case study, and continues to come back and work with you again and again, and even if they never work with you again, they're still a super fan if they're just like really excited about your work and would happily chat to other people about it. But this convincing, this is a delicate dance, this is where the work is, and how to get people from that not knowing anything about you to a booked client. So I'd say 60% of people need convincing. And what does convincing look like? Convincing looks like education, content creation, through podcasting, through having a YouTube channel, through blogging, through writing an ebook, through regular live streaming on Facebook Live. And I'm not saying you have to do all of these, but these are all convincing structures. Through an autoresponder sequence where somebody opts into a really good lead magnet, that's like a PDF or a freebie. They opt into your mailing list. Opt-in just means they give you their contact information. Trying to like demystify any of these like tech terms or marketing terms. So they give you their email address, you capture their information so you're able to market to them so that you can convince them. So that's kind of like that 60%. That is like a codification of a marketing plan for the 60%. 20%, these are the ones that I love. 20% not worth your time. There are 20% of people who come into your world. Like this is not like the whole global population, but this is just people who like interact with you. They like see you on Facebook. 20% are not worth your time. 20% of your sales calls will not be worth your time. I think it's always good to do them because it's good practice, and you will more easily be able to identify the 20%. If 20% for me, not worth my time, tire kickers, people who are not prepared to invest in branding, people who want to just like pick my brain for no real reason, people who don't value design, who think that like, it's okay if I just get it on Fiverr. It's okay if I just get my nephew to do it. I understand there's budgetary reasons sometimes, but like those are in my 20%. I can still create some content for them, but I'm not going to go after that group with any kind of fervor. Maybe there's like a couple of people in there that could move into that needs convincing. People are at all different cycles of working with you too. So it's kind of nice to be like, what I like about that 20% is it eases the pressure of it. It's like, you don't have to convert not everybody is ready to convert to a paying client, and that's okay. But I don't have to, that 20% over there, like I don't have to focus on them very much. Okay, so you can have some free offerings out there. It's always good to have free content. But I'm not gonna be fishing a lot for sales from that group. I'm going to make sure I focus really good time on that 20% of super fans. I'm going to make sure that when I do get a client, I do a great job. So at the end, we finish strong and they're ready to work with us again. They're excited to work with us again. And then the bulk of the marketing becomes about that 60% that needs convincing. And so it will be different for your industry. But I like you to start thinking even now, like for that 60%, what does your person need in order to say yes to you? Like, what's the convincing that they need? Do they need a sales call with you? Do they need some more education? Do they need some education about their issue? Some customers are not even issue aware. They're not like, and that can be the hardest people to market to, because they have a problem but they don't know what their problem is. I think can be tricky, like if that's where you're at. So how does an avatar help? In marketing, an avatar is a little fiction. It's a fictionalized person that helps us understand who our ideal customers are, so we can more easily find them. This is also called a buyer profile or a buyer persona too. So you hear these terms kind of interchangeably. Avatar just really comes from like, computer games, and when you have your little person, your little like Bitmoji or something like that is an avatar. But really it's just thinking about a fictional case study or a fictional person, a buyer profile that just helps you easily find them and easily understand them. Let's see where we're at time wise. I like this. Your ideal customer avatar is a profile that's based on a best case scenario for your business. I like creating, it's like what we talked about in the first session. There's like a real beauty and energy that comes from setting an intention. And I think what's really helpful, if you can get out of the weeds of all of the details, like how do I find this person and how do I like know about them? If you can just think about this as an exercise, some people like manifestation, some people like intention setting. I like doing these exercises so that we create a container for what we're actually calling in. It's a very clear, like, to create a buyer profile is like, it's a clear declaration of, I want more clients like this. This is a best case scenario for me. This is a best person for me. These are those 20% of the super fans who are going to work with us for years, who are going to continue recommending, referring people out to us. This is a little dense, this one, but by creating effective customer avatars, here are some of the things that you can do. You can identify new opportunities. You can understand your customers' needs and wants. You can better understand why a demographic is buying from you. That's really good to kind of go in and just get some like market research about, why do people actually buy from you? A lot of us don't know that. we know that people buy, but we're not quite sure why they buy. And that a lot of the times comes down to actually going out and interviewing the people, doing little interviews, little exit interviews with people that you work with, because it's an easy it's like it's easy to just like not do that piece. Even in myself, it's just like, oh, I don't want to bother them, sometimes there's fear around getting bad feedback, right? Like um we had, just a team meeting the other day about feedback forms to give to clients. And I was just like, ooh, in the past, I didn't do it. It's like there's a sensitivity around, like, I don't know if I want to hear how the client, and I was like, why would I do that? Why would I not want to ask? Why would I not want to connect face to face with a client to see what their experience was like, so that I can grow, so that they can feel heard and understood. And most of the time that feedback is really good too, but I think it's just like we have the brain has like a negative confirmation bias to just like, oh, I don't want too much feedback, but feedback is very important. And that's going to help us know why people are buying from you. And then the last two are kind of about advertising and marketing. So the more that you know your buyer profiles, talk about that in a second, doesn't have to be just one. You can target your offerings to different buyer profiles. And what I like about it is if you start using technology like mailing list providers like a MailChimp or ConvertKit or Kartra or something like that, you can start like really honing in the different groups that you work with and these buyer profiles. So what I like about that is it can give you a lot of confidence in um, your marketing message. So I was talking to somebody the other day on a brand audit, and her business, and I don't know, she might even be here right now. Taya, her business is CBD oils. And so she has several different buyer profiles. Like one was, like older people in pain. There was like special needs children. They have biscuits for dogs. And there's like there was somewhat of like, I don't know, like resistance, in the marketing resistance, because you don't want to bother the non-dog people with a message about biscuits for dogs. You don't want to bother the dog owners with a message about parents of special needs kids. So the more that you can know your buyer profiles and the deeper the channels you can create around marketing to each one, the more confidence you have in like, oh, I can send this email because my email list is segmented into only dog buyer profiles. Does that make sense? Hopefully that you can start to see how you can build out like a buyer profile is really the top of the food chain around like the marketing plan that can go from underneath. Let's see. Okay. I got to cover this because it's important. So I'm going to do this quickly. Rational versus emotional buying. This is a really important one. And there are lots of books out there. So we're just going to just dance over it lightly right now. But I do recommend, like, if you take the time to get into buyer psychology, it can be really, really helpful. People buy emotionally, and this, it's not always, it's just personality driven as well. But I think for the most part, people buy emotionally and they rationalize afterwards. We're looking for like confirmation bias that we made a good choice. And so knowing your buyer profiles and knowing that the core emotional driver that is getting them to buy, whether it's like, I don't know, you're like a relationship coach and it's that like fear of being alone, that like, and I'm just riffing right now, so I don't know, this is like not exact science, but that like fear of being alone that drives somebody to like, I gotta repair my relationship or else I'm gonna be by myself, or someone who's like, I don't know, hiring a public speaking coach because they have a fear of embarrassment, deep embarrassment when they're speaking live, but now they have a new job where they have to do it. So getting to like this like need, this emotion is really, really important. But then having all of the things to kind of justify rationalize or justify the purchase is equally important, and those sometimes come like afterwards. And so And I know we're in a short period of time, we were trying to cover a big topic. But one of the ways that I like to think about this is appealing to the emotion in your sales copy, in your one-on-one calls that you do with people, really getting down to, and you may have heard this call, it's just like pain points, like knowing the pain points of your target avatar, communicating to those points, what keeps them up at night. That's one of the biggest questions really, is like what keeps your buyer profile, your client up at night. What is the thing that they're worrying about vis-a-vis your business? Not like, I know they're worrying about a lot of different things, but like, what are they worried about as it relates to your business? And then have these little benchmarks, like pre-purchase or after the purchase, that helps with the rationalization. And what does that mean? These are just like broad marketing terms. It means like, if your client is spending, say, a lot, say that you have packages that are in the multiple thousands, or even in the multiple hundreds, how can you follow up with them very quickly after buying? So whether that's through an autoresponder, or whether it's through like something that happens in the next week, that helps them confirm that they made the right decision, because buyer's remorse is a real thing, and buyer biases of just like, "Ooh, does it look like, I don't know, I'm sure everyone can really resonate with what I'm saying. You make a purchase and then you instantly, the brain starts looking around, like immediately after I buy something, if it's closed, I'll go in and I'll look at it again. Like I get the email and then I click on it, and then I like look at all the jeans that I just bought again, or sweaters, and I'm just like, do I like that? Do I like that? Do I like that? I'm looking for a rational confirmation that I made the right decision, but there was an emotion behind it. Why? Because I want to look good. I want to feel good in the clothes that I'm buying, but I also want to rationalize and justify the purchase. And so I want you to start, also the little homework is to start thinking about, are there things you can put in place either pre-purchase or after? Maybe it's a little gift, maybe it's a one-on-one kickoff call, 5, 10, 15 minutes, something small that makes them feel like right after they purchase with you, you can help them justify. Is there a way that you can send them an email that really breathes life into the vision that they have? So if somebody buys a weight loss package for you, they get a video from you that's just confirming that they just made a really good choice. That helps to, deal with both sides of the buying, the rational and the emotional. That's a little detour there, but I think it's really important. And then buyer psychology is to really look for subconscious blockages. It's not always easy to find. One thing, when I mean by subconscious blockages, is sometimes people say yes, that they want to buy something, but there's a lot going on in the background. And so again, we could talk for a whole day just on this topic. Maybe I'll do another workshop on buyer psychology. And rational versus emotional. But this does relate to the buyer profile, because I want you to start thinking about um, your ideal client avatar, and think about what potential subconscious blockages they have. I'll give you a good example from our industry. So our packages are an investment for people, and I'm well aware of that. And so I watched myself as I invested pretty heavily in my business this year in bigger, like 6,000, 8,000, $12,000, like money that I've never invested before in my life. It really started moving that into my business. And what I noticed every single time, I would find I would have a deep intuition that it was the right person, the right service, that it was going to serve my business highly. That was not the question. So that was the consciously, I knew this is a good choice. This is a good investment of my money. I've run the numbers. I'm going to get a return on investment from this investment. But every single time I would have a subconscious blockage, and I started seeing it, and then it became less subconscious. I was shining light on it. And it was this part in myself that would say, you're not worth investing. You're not going to be able to follow through with this enough to get the return on your investment. That this isn't a real business, that this isn't, not that the service provider wasn't worth it, not that the service wasn't worth it. I was able to rationally justify all of those things. but it took a little deep work on myself to be able to take a deep breath and say, yes, I am worth this. The business is worth this. I believe in myself and I believe in my ability to take this investment, absorb it into my business, and return on investment in multiple figures, multiple returns on investment. Um, and I think I'm sure that as you're listening to me, you can feel the parallels. And I inquire, like I recommend as you buy things over the next like couple weeks, think about your own experience. Like, think about how you buy, the thoughts that come up, the subconscious blocks that you can start to identify, especially if it relates to if you've ever made a bigger purchase too. Get in the shoes of your client. Think about where they're at and what they're thinking of. Um, this is a big one, but that was mine. And I realized that for our own clients, that's something that they're working through as well to have invest to work with us. There's some psychological leaps that need to happen over these feelings of like, I'm an imposter, my business is not worth this, I'm not going to be able, this isn't even a real business, I'm not going to be able to return on this investment, and so we have questions in our own team around like, how do we help people to bridge that gap? How do we help, like, say like a female business owner who's a coach who's ready to take her business to the next level, but and wants to work with us, but also is just like, my subconscious is blocking me. So that's a creative question that we're working through right now too in real time. But it really helps in every industry to know what those subconscious blockages are. Last little bit before we do our get down to work, how to find your ideal client avatar. This part is easy. It's the building out the avatar that sometimes is a little bit in the weeds and takes a little bit of time, but you either identify who you already worked with and love. If you've been in business for a little while, you may have a client, you may have one of those super fans who you're just like, man, Jane is like such a pleasure to work with. She's so easygoing. She pays on time. She's really enthusiastic. She's really motivated. She wants to keep working together for the long term. She really takes her health seriously or her business seriously. You may have that person, in which case I love working off of a person, fictionalizing a real person, kind of like imagining that you know a little bit more about their psychology than you really do. And the other one is to build a fictional character. So that's really good if you're just getting started. That's really good if you're moving into a new industry. That's really good if you're creating a new avatar. Um, and one last comment here is there's always a question around, but I feel like I have to have a niche, and I feel like everyone says to just talk to one person. And that's true, but you can also have multiple buyer profiles. And I like that because some of us don't want to feel like, myself in business, I don't want to feel boxed in that we only work with one type of industry. Like, it's not like brand better for just jewelry brands. Like, we are brand better for everyone that's a good personality match with us, right? Everyone who has a business that we're excited about, so it's a little, but within that, we can start building buyer profiles. Buyer profile number one is like Lisa, who has a health and wellness or functional medicine business. Buyer profile number two is our business coaches. So you can continue to build these out, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do at least one. We won't have time to share these because we're at 11:37, but we will have time to sit and work on them together. So I'm going to go through this with you. Just get out your worksheet. Let me head over to the chat. I think we've got some questions in there. Tanika, hello. Awesome. Yes, Kimberly. Yeah, product for both buyers, but also go through these exercises and have your moms and your teachers. And in the beginning, it's going to be a little bit tricky around like how do I market to everybody? And so my intention is always to just get a little better and a little better and a little better as you go through time. You'll start off and it's like, I feel like I've got moms and I've got teachers and I'm creating content, but I don't know who for. As you go and continue like creating content, creating like continue building out, say, your mailing list, you can start step by step creating like a marketing funnel, a marketing pathway specifically for moms. Then you have another one specifically for teachers. And you don't have to build out all of that to start, but just know this is a great place to start, just knowing a little bit more about those buyer profiles. So then you can post on social media, hey, we just created a new guide specifically for teachers. Here's the link to sign up. You have 20 people that sign up. Great. That's 20 people that you know are teachers. So you have them in a specific mailing list. And next time you have an offering that's just for teachers and moms, just, I mean, I know this is a bad example because there's some like cross between them. Teachers are moms and moms are teachers, some of them. But let's say you have two very different, like I think the CBD oil is a good example with the dog owners. And then we have like elderly people with fibromyalgia over here. The clearer you can start to be like, hey, we have a guide that's just for dog owners. So people sign up. And then you have them in your mailing list tagged as like, these are all my dog owners. So when you have a dog specific offering, you don't have to blast out the whole mailing list. You can actually just start targeting, you can start channeling, I'm just thinking like dig the grooves a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. So let's take some time on our worksheets. You'll see here, let me go over. So I did a little copy here and then I have to go over to the actual workbook here. Let me pull this in just a little bit. So what I did here is you have three, we're going to work through one today, just, for like 5-7 minutes. You're not going to get all done, but it's just going to be like a good intro. I've actually given you space to do 3 different customer profiles. And I like you, if you have a multifaceted business where you could easily identify a couple different customer profiles, I'd like to invite you over the next couple of days to kind of build these out. I want to show you something fun. You might not do it right now, but I'll walk you through how to use this. So we're going to fictionalize a real person. This isn't just like my avatar is busy moms in their mid 40s. This is like, we're going to create like a real person here. So you can give them a real name. I'm going to give them the name Emma. And customer type, I would say you can get clever here, but I'm going to call Emma a super fan. She is one of my 20% that comes back and books us for multiple services. She pays on time. She doesn't balk at the price. She really values good design and she knows how worth it is for her business. But what's cool is we can actually go here in Canva and let's get a picture. Oh, see, I'll overthink this. I'm just going to use the one I used the other night. You could drag it over, and then when it goes in the circle, you can just add Emma right there. You guys can start as you're kind of listening to me. I wouldn't worry too much about don't get stuck on the picture, but it's fun when you can actually go down and say, yeah, that's Emma. She's my super fan. So demographics. This is where we get into the real specifics around like, what's her profession? What's her marital status? Is she like divorced? Does she have kids? What kind of like university did she go to? And this is where you get to be creative. You get to make this up. This is your ideal client. This is a dream client to work with. She lives in New York City. She's a busy psychotherapist. She's got great style. She makes a lot of money. So we start off with the demographics, but then we kind of dig down, like what's their story? What are their challenges? What keeps them up in the middle of the night? We're not going to have a lot of time to go deep into this. So this is going to be a later after the workshop kind of thing, but I want you to spend time on this story, really like dig into the psychology of this customer. Next is, what do they need to solve their challenges? For me, that becomes very, very simple and easy. Most people need new branding. And that seems like the simple answer, but why do they need new branding? They need new branding to feel confident in their business. They need new branding to help them up level to the next earning plateau, to the next. They need to have branding that matches the level of quality of care and work that they put out in the world, because that's just not, or they need new branding to match a message. They have a new clarity in their messaging, but the visual side of it or the brand voice side of it isn't really communicating that. So what are their needs? Like, what do they need to solve their challenge? And then how can you solve those challenges? And I like the solution center here. I want you to like take some time to really think about this and think about, this is where I feel like creative ideas come from these solutions. I think this is where the idea for new offerings in your business come. This is where some cross pollination comes into play. Just like when you're thinking about like, oh, like here's a real world example. So we do branding, but we also do websites. And I've been doing this for like 6 years now. And something that I find is consistently a problem is if clients don't book a copywriter as well, they don't know what to write on their website. And almost every single person will say, yep, I'm fine. I can just write the copy for the website. I'll have my kickoff call with them and I'll just be like, okay, you okay writing the copy? Yeah, yeah. How long do you think it's going to take to get it done? And everybody's always like, I don't know, like a week or two. And projects will drag on for months and months. I've had projects drag on for over a year sometimes, just with people. I've obviously tightened those processes up a lot, but this is more back in the day. But people will, it takes a lot of time. And so, I would put that down in my needs. Like, what's their challenge? Their challenge is one of their challenges for a specific type of buyer for me is to gather all the information that they need to actually put this brand out into the world. And so then I get to the solutions, and the solutions are it gives me ideas of, oh, we can create a copywriting guide for people. Um, oh, we can create what we did just a couple weeks ago, brand new, but it came from an exercise like this. A solution was to put together like a document that was plug and play. So we mapped out an entire website and we just had a plug and play document that we give to people. And I walk through with a tutorial. And we just, instead of saying, hey, just write the copy of your website and give it to us, we give them the doc and say, hey, we need a title here. Then you plug in the title. Hey, we need 5 bullet points of why you're awesome to work with, or 5 facts about you. So we build out that whole thing. And the only reason why I share that is because this is where creative solutions come from. This is where new ideas about your business, when you can connect a person and their needs, and you can put it together in a way that you can provide a good solution for them. Uh, I love this, and I hope I'm really communicating the value of doing this exercise. Um, Let me see. I think we've got some questions in the chat. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Um, let's see. What other business? Yeah, Melissa, I would actually do buyer profiles. So if you work B2B, or you can even do buyer profiles for different stakeholders or shareholders in your business too. So I would do these for everybody. If you have it's a good idea to do this for people that you want to joint venture with, right? If you want to be a podcast guest, if you want to teach in masterminds, do a profile of that person so you have it. Like, what I love about these is it gives you clarity, and it makes making decisions much more easily, because you kind of look and you're just like, oh, it fits with my profile. So I would say, yeah, I would have them too. What platforms do I use for websites? So Wix, yeah, Lisa, I would Wix, Squarespace, Shopify, that's ones that we use. Show It is where my website is. But we don't actually use WordPress anymore. Like, I used to have my WordPress website for years and years. I used to only design websites for WordPress for clients. And this year we actually made a decision to not do WordPress anymore. I think it's really helpful, especially if you have, I'm not dissing the platform other than I find that for an average client, it's a lot of maintaining work. It's like updating plugins, and plugins don't communicate with themes, and then the site goes down, and people, I just find that clients need a lot more extra support when it's WordPress. So we started doing Wix, Squarespace, Shopify, Show It was the other one. And I see some people using Wix in the platform, and Shopify too. Okay. Thanks, Melissa. And thanks, everybody. We're at 11:49. So we're actually breaking for lunch right now. We've got 2 hours. I'm going to be doing 5-minute chats with people. So if you've got a chat with me, then I'm going to email you quickly the link from where we can meet up. We'll just meet up on Zoom. And then I will see you guys back at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let's see what we've got up next. I think we're talking about like brand personality. You guys are going to see behind the scenes in my Canva. Number 1, number 3. Oh, the 4 Ps. How do you nail the 4 Ps? Positioning, pricing, packaging, and profit. So come back here at 2 with your workbooks, and have a nice lunch break. And I'll see you guys in a little bit. Thanks, everyone.